Leadership.
How are you, leadership?
How are you? How are you, comrades?
Hey, I'm struggling, man.
You are struggling with what, my friend?
That's why I'm here for the therapy.
Yeah. Guys, I must put in a disclaimer. I'm not a training professional at all. I have no training whatsoever in these things.
Yeah, no. What they are dying inside. So probably people with experience and what they will help us.
They will tell us, Tony, hi.
I'm good. How are you, comrades?
We're fine. We're having our comrade therapy session. I regret, man. Wait, I regret.
What's the crisis?
Look, by the way, like I really think society takes comrades for granted, right? Comrades must be these things that must be all performing, all knowing, all delivering, all everything at once. And they must use a grand society uses leaders.
Yeah.
That's me. And
I,
I feel like no one cares about imagine now right now if Cyril had a meltdown, no one would care.
yeah, they expect him to be at all this top at his A game, wow, everything.
It's not possible. Imagine Zuma saying, "Ah, guys, I'm tired. Like, I'm just tired. I'm not feeling the vibe of leading to this week."
Even today, I was speaking to other councillors. Or plus go casino, but to abana mitlakas. He was saying like, "Mututsegela yang the kontlu, musadi utla mokoba."
Yeah, man.
So I
So
was
yeah, maybe.
wondering,
But let me ask.
councillors are still.
Let me ask Tolly this question, right? Tolly,
Yes.
do you think comrades are allowed to be human beings?
Do I think people or comrades?
Comrades are allowed to be human. Are they allowed to be human beings,
Hey, bruh.
or they must be judged on a higher
Uh,
standard?
here's what I think. I think you can't help other people if you are not in a good space, because my understanding is that you need to feel a certain way. You need to have to be able to execute certain duties, because remember, the roles that comrades play in society are ones that require a lot of emotional intelligence, emotional stability. Psychologically also, you need to be in a position where you are taking care of your mental health, which is something, of course, that's not taken seriously in the political space. So I do think you can't separate a comrade from being human, because I always hold this view that whatever positionality you can't separate the personal from political. So whatever circumstances that comrades find themselves in have an impact in terms of how they will solve the issues that they need to solve in society. You can't separate the two discussions.
Okay, all right. Chidi Wena, what do you think? Do you think comrades should be higher than human beings? They should be advanced detachment. They can't be crying about broken hearts when they must fight about, I don't know, electricity.
Yeah, at some point, I used to think so, eh? Up until you arrive in that space, or sometimes we are broken as leadership. Because you can't even manage our households as leadership. That's why we're seeing what is happening with your normals and what, because of it's difficult. You are expected to be a Superman outside there. You must be all over. So when you go inside the home, you can't even laugh at certain things or even play with your kids and whatsoever because of already thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow. Tsepo wants delivery, Tsepo wants work. You know all these pressures that are there. So already what's happening in the house, you're not even there. But physically you are there, but mind is not even in the house. What is happening?
You are worried about
So
the
I think
protest tomorrow.
or you are worried about what's going to happen. Even if you are a government leader of some sort, there you are worried about type one's delivery. The pressure, organizational pressures also. You are checking. I'm faction now. I will lose. I go side thing. You want these things.
Sure.
They stress you on the side on its own. Hey, man, what is it that I must do now? I must manage this one. I must manage this one. I must manage work. I must manage social life. Yeah, I must. So I think at some point I thought to no, we're managing, but we're broken. Sure.
But we're broken. Look, I hear you. I hear both of you, no? But I also look at comrades and how they relate to each other, right? To me, okay, let me just add TT. TT, welcome if you can hear us.
Sure, I can.
Sure, I'm saying
Original convener. Hey, at some point, the local convener there.
Representation.
Look, I didn't invite everybody. I put it on my wall and I said, if you're interested, Zwagal. And these are the responses I got, right? So Askis, we'll try. If somebody else, please, if you are listening and you want to join, please help us fix the gender representation. That's a please.
Okay.
TT, I'm just saying, I just asked our two guests now that do you think comrades are allowed to be human or they should behave better and must be judged on a higher standard?
That's interesting. But you are putting me on the spot because I just entered. So I thought I must just get the gist of the conversation first. But if you're to ask me, comment to sending to I think there was one thing, not recently, that he was addressing. I think they were dealing with the issues of and they were changing mayors in KZN, if I remember properly. There were a number of mayors and committees that they were dealing with. And he says, for us, when we deal with issues, for example, of legality, that is the, it's not, so as revolutionaries and as activists,
sure,
the moral standard that we must hold is not the lowest bar. So it's not the one that says the lowest common denominator. So we can't want at the bottom of the barrel. We've got a responsibility to almost be above the moral standard. So if, for example, the moral standard says, and it's tough because we're human and sometimes it's not fair. So, for instance, there's a principle of you are innocent up until proven guilty, right?
Sure.
To a large extent, society expects from revolutionaries that you would not ever be put even to a test of whether you must account whether you are innocent or whether you are guilty. You must be above accusation almost, which is sometimes not fair. But I guess sometimes as a revolutionary movement, that's what society expects from us.
And when what do you do? What do you think we ought to do? Do that unfair thing or?
Yeah, well, you can't be a leader of society and not lead. I guess that's what we say. We say we're a leader of society. So the leader of society.
Maybe let me bring a different example, right? So I'll bring a controversial one. Let's say it's towards the NYTA to Limshin, and you are close and you don't make it, right? Is it okay for you to be sad, or you must act like a leader and say no? As a leader, the ANC has made its call. Wara wara. And is it okay for you to be sad if you don't make it to a position that you wanted? Anyone can take it.
Hello.
Yeah, just told you we can hear you. Oh, okay.
I think those two processes can happen concurrently. So, as much as Totela is saying, and I agree to a certain extent, that as a leader of society, the standards that you or the yardsticks that is used to measure up the kind of individual you are is not the same as someone who doesn't want to lead society, right? However, in your own personal space, you should be then obviously be able to say, I'm sad, I might have invested this much in terms of this and it didn't materialize. But in terms of how you then express this in the public space, you need to be happy for the next person that actually has achieved what it is that you had the desire to achieve. That's what being a leader is about. You won't always get what it is that you envision to get, and unfortunately, you need to be happy with other comrades in a sense. So I think those two processes don't have to be separated.
What if you're not
And
happy,
you're not a
Tony? What if you're not happy? What if, can you hear me, Tony?
Yes, I can.
What if you're not happy? What if you are feeling sad? What if you're feeling envious? What if you're feeling jealous? Must you lie and say, no, I'm happy? Is it part of the greater good?
No.
What if you are feeling things you're not supposed to be feeling?
What I'm saying is that there were a lot of, I think let's just, because we are speaking about today, so let's just call a spade a spade. There were a lot of people who were not in the best space to express how they're feeling. And I mean, there's no rush to say that because the results were announced at a certain time, then you need to then come out to the public and say, this is how I'm feeling. The reality is, in the political space, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Even in the event, if you are quiet, they're going to be like, no, Utulile, it means this one is better because they didn't make it. So at the end of the day, it's a matter of what works for you, and at what point are you then in a position where you can genuinely say, congratulations, comrades, I did run for the same position, and unfortunately I was not successful. However, I'd like to congratulate other comrades who have achieved this. It's all a matter of the timing, and also you don't have to pretend, because for me personally, then it's a waste of time if it's not a genuine congratulatory message.
I just want to add, I think Toli makes such a great point, because I can see, Tepo, you're struggling with your lighting there. But I don't know, I come from that old school of thought, and I mean, Machine, I don't know if you remember when we went to the UJ conference, where I was contesting, I think, against Tapelo Budiba for regional secretary of SASO. And so you go with the core and there's an agreement and you arrive in a conference, but the democratic will of a conference that has happened. Is your heart so? Of course your heart is so, right?
Sure.
But I've always believed that it's not about you. I don't know. It's idealistic. It doesn't make sense to a large extent, because comrades are human. When you apply to make it into the NYDA, you apply hoping to be shortlisted. When you are shortlisted and you go and have a good interview, no one goes and has a good interview and does not think that they're going to make it. So to expect that anyone would have put themselves through that process would immediately after that then come out and say, congratulations. It's some are able to do it, but sometimes it's not practical and sometimes it won't look genuine, right? But I do believe that in the end, what guides us as revolutionaries is the reality that it's never about you. It can't be about you. And maybe it's a facade and it's not real because it's not publicly about you, but it's not like I won't go to Tsepo and say, but Jan, in a WhatsApp group somewhere and say, but how did that person make it? Really? Right? But for the sake of the organization, we are taught routine. You can't, yeah. So I'm just saying there's a public image that is expected of us as comrades, which might not necessarily be the reality, but it's one of those things that I think since joining we were taught that we must believe in. But not all of us are the same. Okay? That's the nice thing about belonging to an organization.
Okay. Look, I think there seems to be a consensus. Jacob, welcome.
Jameson, how are you?
I'm okay. The network keeps on shutting down. I'm going to just switch the Wi-Fi, right? So please don't.
I get it. I'm in the bundus.
Oh no, everyone's network seems to be turning on and off, right? So
It's very bad.
So I'm just going to switch, and it might look like it's going off, but it's not off. So don't be alarmed when I.
No, it's not an issue.
Yeah.
No, it's not an
So,
issue.
but what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Do you think comrades must be human or?
Network happened. What's the question?
So I'm saying, do you think comrades must be human beings or leaders?
That question has no answer, because
okay. But give us your views.
Yes. I'm gonna speak to it. To be human and to be comrade, those are two separate discussions, contextual. You know, you can't reduce.
Okay.
Yes. You can't reduce the debate or the dialogue about being human to be comradely, and you can't equally uprise the debate of being a comrade to be a human being.
Okay.
We need to separate the two. I think that one is very important and critical too. And we cannot unless we'll be failing the future generations in terms of knowledge production. However, you can't be a comrade if you're not a human being. For you to be a comrade, you must be human at first, because what defines us as comrades is that we are human beings and humanity resides within us. And one would know that humanity has no race, but it's about the greater well-being of any individual that exists, regardless of race.
Okay, let's put it this way. Let me give you like a crazy example, right? Let's say, Jacobs, you are supposed to attend a meeting that has to do with water supply, service delivery issues. No?
Absolutely.
And that meeting is tomorrow morning. Tonight, you discover, for example, that your wife is cheating and you become sad. Is it okay for you to miss that meeting because you are sad over cheating?
My conviction does not allow that thing.
So you must go to the meeting and deliver.
It's very important. I can come and discuss my issues after I've dealt with my people. Absolutely, the issue that has to relate with the greater being of the society. I come at last all the time.
Okay. No. Is that what you think society expects? Do you think that's how our leaders behave, or do you think that's what society expects?
Look, as a leader, what society expects of me, it comes less. But as a leader with the conviction of what I'm carrying that I have to deliver, I must then know who's the priority for me as a leader. Do I consider myself first or the committee first? But if I were to say, Jacob, what is your view? I would say the community first, then I come after.
Okay, community first. Then
I would serve first.
Totally. If you can hear us, I don't know. Are you unmute? Let me unmute. Oh, what's happening? Why are you muted? I don't know. Tony, can you hear us? Okay, I think we've lost them. I think because of network. Surely they can come back.
Network, yes. Load shedding. I get busy as come. Work hard.
Yeah, look, I also got load shed. That's why we started a bit late. No? Yeah, look, it's real. Praveen is dealing with us. But I'm saying Tony made the argument earlier. That, look, you can't help other people when you are not okay.
I disagree.
Okay. But her point she made earlier was that, look, man, what is it that you are giving if you have very little of it, right? That leader you'll be in that community meeting won't be the best version of yourself, and you won't give us the good product if you go in there and you're not okay when. So you must focus on self-care, self-love, so that you can give the community the best product possible.
I disagree.
Why?
Look, to provide leadership is to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are a server or when you're in service, you're working for those that you think they can deliver better than when are you standing currently at the point in time. I think she's back now. Can you put her in?
Yeah.
Because I'm
Totally.
interested in her views. Come,
Totally.
fake phakathi.
Yes.
Yeah, ungenile phakathi.
Sorry, my
Are you
network.
within?
She's within.
Totally, are you
She's
within?
within, right?
Okay.
Totally.
Guys,
Jacobs
I can't
is
hear
saying,
you. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Who's Jacob? Which Jacob?
There's a Jacob. Man, when I'm saying we have a guest here, but I've opened it for everyone, right? He's saying that
Okay.
community first, yourself as a leader last. And I gave an example that, look, if tomorrow he has a meeting to attend to, about service delivery and a water issue, right? If his wife cheats on him tonight or he finds out tonight, right, and he's distraught and heartbroken, should he go to the meeting or must he not go because he won't be the best version of himself? And he says, no, you must always go to the meeting. The community comes first. When you must sort yourself later. Is that not in contradiction with? Yeah, is that not in contradiction with what you said earlier about self-love and things like that?
I can't hear you. I'm assuming that you want to know what my view is regarding that scenario. I don't think that you should not go to the meeting because it's something that you had committed to, and it's your, in inverted commas, your revolutionary duty as a leader of society to ensure that you follow through. However, what I was stressing earlier was that you're not consistently you don't consistently have these commitments. There's a time where you realize that, okay, I'm doing this much, but I'm not fine in relation to my mental health. And therefore it's proving to have a negative effect on the greater good or the work that I'm supposed to be doing in terms of the position that I find myself in society. Therefore, let me take a step back because I won't be as effective as I usually would be if I was in a better position in terms of my mental health. So no, you don't drop the meeting, you follow through and you finish what you had committed to. But if it's going to have an effect, if it's going to have an effect when you post that, you take a step back so that it doesn't affect you in the long term. That's what I meant earlier.
Okay, Kifente, welcome. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, Litia, and thank you so much for having me.
Sure. There's another thing about comrades, no? In terms of their humanly behavior. There are rumors. I call them rumors because I don't have the scientific backing for it. That comrades treat each other badly by themselves, right? They are not kind to each other. They say the meanest things about each other. Should the expectation of comrades, or should society expect comrades to treat each other better? Or it's inevitable that they're going to treat each other nasty because they're trying to be as robust as possible?
Well, I think, Tsepo, that society would expect us to treat each other better because they would expect that we must be able to set certain rules of engagements amongst ourselves before we can set those rules of engagements with the society at large. But however, the reality is that wherever there's contestation of power, people go at any length to access that particular power. And that's where you have the kind of treatment that you are speaking of. But I think that what then becomes an issue is when, after contesting each other as comrades, we cannot then, rebuild and say, let's go out there as a stronger unit, so that people can have the confidence in us to say, because when you're referring to comrades, you are referring to special members of society, in a sense that these people have to lead by example at all times. So if they are not treating each other correctly, then society will obviously lose the trust that these people, we can entrust them with the leadership role in society, because they can't treat their own better, But the reality is that
doesn't that allow different space for dishonesty, right? So, for example, if I think Toli is mediocre, ne? Must I tell her in public that no, but Toli, you're a mediocre leader. You're not the quality we're looking for.
No, I think that if you have access to Toli, why should you tell her that in public when you have access to her? You can say to her, but leadership, don't you think that you should develop yourself here and here before you can assume that particular position, right? Instead of you going to embarrass her when you have access to her. I think it's the human thing to do is to speak to Toli on the side rather than embarrass her.
Okay. Jacobs, I see you wanted to say something.
I'm saying something. You see, what I didn't get the comrade's name, but because not written here.
It's Kifense.
But Kifense, I think Kifense is making a very valid point that amongst ourselves as cadres, we tend to criticize ourselves in a social platform. Whereas amongst ourselves, we can talk before going social or public as a leadership. But what he's saying, in my view, I'm not saying I'm right, but you'll correct me when I chair. What we are discussing is not that thing of us going and exposing one another and each other, but we're just trying to check who comes first between us as social or political activists in the country and our own interest based on our responsibility as per family members. So I'm not sure if when he's answering, I'm not disagreeing what he's saying. It's a very key point that it needs to be discussed as well. But I still feel that his answering does not speak to your question. I'm not sure if I captured him correctly.
Look, we're broad. We're broad, Jacob. We're broad. Look,
it's broad.
I don't want to limit the discussion.
To me, context, it's very important. But it's fine.
I don't like limiting discussions. But here's my issue. Here's my issue with both your views, right? So if we reprimand each other in private, the only versions of ourselves that would be in public would be these perfect beings. Because if you do well, we want to tell you that you're doing well in public. If you do nonsense, we won't tell you you're doing nonsense in private, right? And society will only have a perfect picture of comrades in public. Do you think? I don't think that's a good thing to have. I think it looks like we're misleading society. Let me bring.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you, Tsepo. But you see, there's a difference between reprimanding someone.
I'm not hearing you, but I think the biggest crisis with criticizing each other as comrades is that then people tend to personalize issues. So now it's never a discussion of us assessing your qualities and your strengths and what you're able to do. But now this one, Vele doesn't like me. So it always takes that negative turn. It's as if in the organization, there's no longer space for dissent. And for me, an organization that's not a political environment doesn't want to allow dissent and introspection can never grow, because now we're not always going to agree with each other. We come from different backgrounds. Our ideological orientations are shaped by different contexts. For example, when we had the issue of the food parcels, when people held a certain view, the discussion was then personalized. So that is where the crisis comes in there. That I do agree that we need to be able to criticize each other and also compliment each other on a public platform, just so we know that we're aware that we equally want to grow. And that's the beauty of learning and unlearning. And that's the process that should take place. However, we're so fixated on this personality cult politics that everything that's said is a direct attack at you, and not trying to grow and improve the political context. So yeah.
But I think being personal is inevitable. You are the one who's messing up. So if I say no, you are messing up, surely it's going to be personal.
By personal, I mean
I must not say messing up is happening. I must say, yeah, but I mean, Kumang Toli or the Rato or Kifent or Sbongi, you are messing up.
Yes. By personal, I mean in the sense that you then take it as that angokfuni. So I'm saying that you're doing this, and at the end of the day, I'm not criticizing you. I don't have a problem with you. I am saying that your actions, Makeda, I don't agree with them on this basis. Let's then engage moving forward in terms of what informs your decision in terms of doing certain things and why I don't agree with them, and see if we can find each other. And it's not a direct attack at you. That is what I mean by personalizing whatever view that a person may have.
Okay. Kifenza?
Yes, I think I'm largely covered by Tolly, and I was about to say to you before she entered that you see there's a difference between embarrassing someone and reprimanding them, whether in public or in private, right? You see, if you were to say Mchana Kifenze in public, Chana Kifenze, I don't think you are representing us well because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a fair critique. But if you're going to say Mara Kifenze when you are a clown, you know, you don't have capacity. You see that the register there and the tone is of disrespect. It's of embarrassing someone. It's not of constructive criticism where you allow even.
Is that not subjective though?
Well, I mean,
criticism and embarrassment, is that not subjective to whoever's receiving the criticism or embarrassment?
Well, it could be to a large extent subjective, and perhaps it is. But I'm saying that Sepo, you are taught to read in between tones and registers, right?
Yeah.
You could tell when someone is coming from bona fide, in good faith to you, and you can tell when someone is trying to be sinister, right? So even in the critique of someone in public, there always has to be that discernment of this person is constructively critiquing, and this one is really just trying to embarrass and disrespect this particular person. In fact, they have little regard for them, right? So I think that we always have to be constructive in our criticism of others, but as well as those who are being criticized, it's upon us to receive criticism as it comes and do not take it personal or internalize it as hate towards, right? But it must give us a space to reflect, or perhaps what these comrades are saying, it's correct. Perhaps I blundered. And then how do I reposition myself to do the correct things, right? And it goes to the extent of saying, if Tsepo is the one criticizing, I must then go to Tsepo and say, but Tsepo, why are you saying this? Can you please explain to me, why are you saying this? I've taken what you're saying to heart, but I just want to know the reasons. How do you think I could better do this thing? If you were in my shoes, how would you do it? Because you see, I was having a conversation.
Is that not too idealistic, though? Is that not assuming that the world is this utopia where people don't have
No,
bad vibes about each other, where people like we live in a world where people don't like each other?
yeah, sure, sure, but I think that should not be the ideal world for comrades. It shouldn't,
Sure.
right? Yes, perhaps for everyone else it could, but for people you refer to as comrades, that shouldn't. Unless if we are just then referring to each other as comrades because it's a term that we like to use. But
Okay.
for people who are comrades, they should be that open channel to critique each other, but also to engage robustly with each other. And I was just about to say to you, I was having a conversation with Tibza Malope, who's a film director, and he says, you see, just because this thing of film is out there, it's out there. People think it's easy. It's like politics, because politicians are fed us every now and then. You read about them. You think that it's easy. You think that I can be a politician, right? And therefore, you
Sure.
critique from that point. So I should be able to come to you and say, Tepo, why are you saying that? And then once you tell me I'm saying this because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I say, but no, the way you are looking at this thing is too simplistic. This is what's happening, right? And this is why I went. So that the critique is not only constructive to me, but to you as the person who's critiquing as well, so that you can understand that this thing is not as it seems, right? Because a lot
Sure.
of people right now, they're like, if I was Cyril Ramaphosa, I would do a better job. This is what I would do, right?
Yes.
But it's not that simple. There are particular things that he has to go through before he makes certain decisions, right? So I think that we need to accept criticism, but it has to be constructive so that both the person who's being critiqued and the one who's critiquing can eventually learn from each other.
Look, maybe I'm too old school, right? I think comrades must be a bit robotic when it comes to criticism, right?
Sure.
They must ignore the tone. They must ignore the disrespect or respect, right? They must be robotic and say, okay, let's check out all this other fluff around the criticism and look at the criticism. Regardless of if it comes nice, it comes in the way they prefer, it comes looking productive, or it comes looking snacks. They must be able to fluff or filter out the rest of the fluff and look at it and not respond to the tone and respond to the actual criticism that they are getting. I know it's a bit
Sure.
unfair for
Sure.
them as human beings, but if you're going to respond to tones and things like that, hey, you might actually even
You're going
evade
to miss
things
the
that you
point.
must. Yes, you're going to run away from things you must do because you are saying, no, this person is not respecting me.
No, I get you. I agree with you fully. I agree with you. But you
Sure.
see, sometimes the way you critique someone, you don't give them that chance. And of course, you're correct that the burden lies on them to say, in as much as this sounds disrespectful, but the bottom line is, and my role is to engage with that bottom line, not
Sure.
how that thing is being said, right? But you see, taking into consideration what I said, is that the person who's critiquing in that particular tone, they're not willing to learn anything. You understand? For them, they
Sure.
have a particular view, and you cannot convince them otherwise, even if their critique is wrong. And that's what I'm speaking of, to say, even me as a person who's critiquing, I have the honors to then, when someone says to me, yes, I hear you, but here's the real situation of this thing, so that I can understand, I'm looking at this particular thing from one view. The other side that I didn't know is this one. So if I'm just going to critique someone in a way that comes off as disrespectful, I'm creating a narrative that even if they were to tell me something else that I didn't know, it wouldn't matter, because I've made up my mind, this one is a clown, this one is below average, and there's nothing good that can come out of it. And
Yeah, but you see,
I'm speaking as
I'm saying because you are the leader, Kifens, in that instance, right? And you're being criticized, né? you have a larger audience than the person criticizing you.
Sure.
So when you respond to the criticism, you're not responding to the person alone.
Yeah.
Now, even if they are steadfast in their ways against you, right? Whoever was listening to the criticism will also listen to your response. And those other people, because of a bigger audience, because of who you are and the position you have, they might learn something.
No, that's true. That's true, Tsepo. They agree with you. I can't dispute that. I can't rebuttal that.
Let me bring a different dynamic of people you surround yourself with, right?
Sure.
I have a personal view that as leaders like yourselves, you have a responsibility not to surround yourselves with yes men and women.
Definitely.
Because what that does, it makes a situation where you're not criticized a normal thing, everything. And when you are criticized, because we love you and we are your friends, we say, no, these ones are jealous of you, these ones are crazy, these ones are all sorts of things, right?
Sure.
And you are going to believe us.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, I've seen, there's a video I once saw of the former deputy minister, Mtumanana, right, in a club, when there was a case about violence, right?
Yeah.
But none of his friends in that setting looked like they were saying, no, Mtwana, don't do this. What you're doing makes no sense. They were actually helping him to do the wrong thing.
You see, Tsepo, one of the things you could do as a leader is surround yourself with yes mems and people who dance to your tune every time. Because one, you'll always be short-sighted, and you'll not be even as robust as you should be in whatever that you should address, because you'll always have one particular view. Even your views would not be challenged. I say, for instance, you look at I once made this example about Robert Mugabe and his first wife, Sally. Yes, I think it's Sally. Right.
Okay.
That you when you look at the transition from Sally to Grace, right? So of course this man started having an affair while Sally was still there and she was sick. But when you look at the Mugabe who was in love with Sally and was married to him, made more sense and was more robust, right? Which then tells you this man's views were challenged within the household, right? Before he went out, they would say, but no, you can't go out and tell people this particular thing. It doesn't make sense, right? You missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where else in that other situation, it would seem that whatever came to mind, it was, no, Yebo Baba, you're correct. Yebo Baba, you're correct, right? So I'm taking it down to the household, that even as a man, you or in a household, as a leader in the household, you cannot have a partner that always dances to your tune. You would need someone who challenges you. You would need someone who ensures that before you go out there, you are grilled within the house, so that when you go out there, whatever you are saying would make more sense. So I definitely agree with you that to surround yourself with people who always dance to your tune is detrimental.
But it's also demoralizing surrounding yourself with people. Every time you do something, no, you will fail, you're not good enough. People who are saying the ANC is terrible, the ANC is corrupt, it must close. Let's say you're an ANC person, right? Imagine surrounding yourself with people who are busy saying, no, the ANC is dead, the ANC is gone, it must be in a museum, whatever. I'm saying, I think also that would demoralize you.
Yeah, I think it's always a balance. And I mean, I have those type of friends as an ANC person who always would say, in fact, when you are part of our problem because you keep on wearing your T-shirts and you keep on doing,
You're a
but yeah, but then I always sit them down and say, for as long as you're not going to give me reasons, you're right, that are beyond what the media is telling you, and you're not going to give me an alternative, you and I cannot have a conversation. You see, when you come to me, when you come to me and say the ANC,
you sound like Mugabe.
no, well, perhaps I do.
You're very wrong.
Perhaps,
You're very
you know,
wrong.
you know.
Can I enter just
But
2
my
minutes?
issue, yeah, sure, you can enter leadership, sure.
Sure,
My
Jacob.
kid. Look, Nganwamne, part of our problems we have is that you've got these pseudo-revolutionists that haven't taken time, haven't gone through the ranks. You understand? To understand what is the bigger goal in transforming Africa. As much as the process is slow, at times it might seem as if we're failing. But with development naturally will produce a process of de-development. Now you become a victim of your success. Now, as you are trying to understand and learning your how you're being victimized as a revolutionary in your conviction in trying to make a change, people they start judging you on the mistakes that come as a by the way issue. But when your solid plan initially, your plan that you had in terms of execution, you're still on par, but you are learning these new mushrooming problems that you're having as you're moving along. We're just victims here. Otherwise, it's a pattern.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay. Look, I hear you, comrade, and just to bring you back to the core of the topic, right? Do you think it's okay for South Africans to see a president crying or showing some level of human weakness, for lack of a better word, or emotion?
Well, it will depend on what the circumstance is, Tsepo. It will depend on what the circumstance is. Because you see, the burden of being a leader is you must be a pillar of strength at all times, right? And that would require that you would always have to suppress your own emotions just to anchor the masses, right? When food is served, you must be the last one to eat if necessary, no matter how hungry you are. So the same logic, if you want to cry and everyone is crying, you would have to be the one who wipes everybody's tears and comforts them. You will cry in your own space. Unfortunately, that's how things are.
Maybe they must change, friends. Maybe they must change.
Well, you see, unfortunately, that's being a burden of a leader. You can't change that, Tsepo. You can't.
Okay,
I mean,
I'll throw my views.
Let me pose a question to you, and say, when you go to your father, right, your biological father, right,
sure,
with your problems, right, you always expect him to be your pillar of strength, right? You always want him to be your anchor, right? Sure. And even in those moments of weakness where he shows his personal weaknesses, you don't even know how to react to that yourself, right? Sometimes you don't know.
That's why I'm advocating for a new political order where we don't look to our leaders for perfection, right? Where we look at them as peers, as equals, who are just given a task to facilitate something on our behalf. And therefore, it's okay for them to cry when they are overwhelmed. It's okay for them to be sad. Yeah. And there's nothing untoward. I think the expectation for them to wipe our tears, I think it's out of date.
No, I actually would agree with that. In fact, if we could build towards that, that would be great. But unfortunately, as things stand, that is not it. You know, there are very high expectations that come with being a leader, and you know that's why a lot of times when we are sitting and looking at these people, we envy them because we don't know where the kind of pressures that they have to deal with. Then when you enter in there, you realize, oh, hey, Mchan, this thing is
Go
tough.
back. Go back.
Yeah, this thing
Go
is
back.
tough. You understand? So ideally that would be nice, but unfortunately, a leader is a special type of a person in society. You know that is expected at all times to resemble perfection, and that is just setting a high standard for society because we always believe that no society can rise above its leaders. So the leader has to always be at the top, because the moment the leader is at the same level with society, he loses his authority, you know, and at the same time things go wrong. Understand? So that's why people today would lament what is going on in the ANC, and they would say Aisafan, because they feel the standard has been lowered so low, right, that they don't find anything to inspire them to act a little bit better, even though they know they can act better. When Tsepo knows that I'm not supposed to take out this cold drink, ends up saying, most these ones who are leading me are corrupt as well. So why should I not die? I'm going to take out cold drink.
And it brings me back to my first point, right? I think you're not locked in. I really sometimes think society uses leaders. Is that not a scapegoat for your own responsibility? Is that not a scapegoat for your own responsibility, right? The fact that we want to over exaggerate what leaders ought to be, that sometimes gives us a loophole to be less than what we ought to be ourselves. Because we're banking on the fact that the leaders won't be perfect so that I can have an excuse for me to be below what I should be.
Look, the thing is, as I said, that if the leaders create room for that scapegoat to find expression,
it's inevitable. It's inevitable. Leaders are going to mess up. Whether we think they're human beings or not, they are still human beings. They are going to mess up.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, you see, when you are in a situation where you are being led, right, by someone who will always remind you that you have a responsibility and make that process a bit easier, and always look at that person as a reminder when you are supposed to do something wrong, it means that person is leading, right? Because they have set the standard so high that whenever you think of absconding that responsibility, you feel bad, right? Because you always ask yourself, but what would this person say if they were to witness me doing this, right? And that is the type of leadership we need, and that is the burden of leadership, right?
Is that not a recipe for anxiety and depression for those leaders?
Well, that's inescapable, you know, because I mean, that is just but one part, you know, of the anxiety ingredient. That is just but one part. But unfortunately, when you accept the role of being a leader, that is the reality you must deal with, right? It's the same way. It's the same way as Tepo, when you decide to bring a child in this world. You abscond the Tepo that you want to be. You assume a particular Tepo, because you must set an example to these kids that you are bringing to this world. You must set particular standards that are so high that whenever they do something, they must always ask themselves, Maga Papa Natlore, if he was here. And that is the burden of leadership, that once absconded, then society becomes leaderless.
Okay. That's defensive for you. I have very strange views about how I think society must organize themselves. I think we have gotten to a time where we don't need conventional hierarchical types of leadership, right? I think we need a more horizontal structure where if you're good at something, do it. If you are good at running meetings, right? Just run the meeting. You don't have to call you leader. We'll call you the person who runs meetings. Right? If you are good
Sure.
at organizing something, organize those things. But what we have done with this thing of having leaders is that we have this image of this perfect person that will always disappoint us. Not everyone who's elected, who's good at having a vision, is good at running meetings.
Sure.
Not everyone who's good at planning is good at speaking. But we've always tried to say, no, a president or a leader must have all these things. And I don't think it works.
No, but you see that perhaps it's the leaders themselves, because part of being a leader is knowing how to delegate, and you delegate what you're not good at, right? I mean, I
can't delegate. Can't delegate so on, Chief. You can't.
Yeah. Well, he can't delegate Sona, but I mean, where it's possible to delegate, he will delegate, right? And that's part of being a leader. I cannot then say I want to organize stuff when I know I'm not good at organizing. I must delegate. Understand? So a leader is not a leader by himself, but is a leader with the collective that he leads in, right? Because sometimes you have a person who's a good leader, but his team that is leading with are not good people. Understand? And therefore, he becomes a bad leader as a result of those that he's leading with. Or sometimes you have a bad leader who's leading with very good people and appears to be the best amongst the best simply because of the other people that is leading with. So the whole leadership thing, it also bestows a responsibility on you to delegate to the best people, to delegate to the most capable people, and to surround yourself with the best amongst the best so that you appear as the best. But if you surround with yourself with incompetent people, we're going to say Tsepo is incompetent. No matter how competent you are, you will always be marred by the qualities and the standards of those you're leading with.
Okay. Given that we're running, I think we went far ahead of time. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us. Guys, that was Stephen for you. That was everybody. We had our own comrade therapy session. People cried, people complained, people were told, hey, fuck, be a leader. And with that, thank you so much, Stephen. Sharp.
Thank you, Tsepo.